good morning with you, Chief, and thank you for sitting with us, Diversity Magazine, to answer these questions. So I'm just going to jump right in.
Sure.
So on a scale of 0 to 10, or 1 to 10, how would you rate the year 2015 with respect to safety and security in Edmonton?
Well, I think I'd rate it about a 7 or 8. I think Edmontonians generally are very safe in this community. I mean, there are certain areas at certain times of the evening that are less safe than others. I think we're aware of those areas, but I think overall, Edmonton's a very safe city. The communities are safe. They're well policed, and I think things are going very well. It was a busy year in 2015, and I think that's one of our challenges is, again, our calls for service are up significantly this year, shockingly so. I mean, we have over 12,000 calls for service this year, more than last year. So that's quite significant and has a bigger impact on our resources.
Yeah, so you said about 7 or 8. So what do you think as a policing unit you could do to bring it maybe to a 10, if that's even possible, in your opinion?
You always shoot for a 10.
Right, exactly.
Knowing full well you'll never attain it. But
yeah.
I think, what helps leverage safety in the community is the community.
Mm-hmm.
If we get good community participation, good community support, if the police are trusted in the community, I think that helps us make the community safer, because it's a force multiplier. Quite frankly, if we have 900,000 Edmontonians here, all those eyes and ears out there working with the police, talking to the police, supporting the police, and the police supporting the community, we leverage all that information and all that support, and we make our community safer.
Great. So what challenges did you face then this year in keeping Edmonton safe, and what are the unfortunate things that you wish didn't happen in order to keep our city safe?
So again, very, very busy year, lots of calls for service, up 12,000 calls, and each call on average, so some calls take 15 minutes, a half an hour to respond to, some take 3 or 4 hours, but on average, we average out all our calls for service, it's 104 minutes. Mm-hmm. So to, a police officer going, or police officers in one car or 2 cars going to a call, 104 minutes, that has a tremendous impact on the police service. So there's certain things that just don't get done, they fall off the table. For example, going to a break and enter in a residence and taking 48 hours or 2 days to get to that call, right. That's not good. That's not good customer service, and that's a challenge for us. So we're going to have to look at the model this next year, and see, what do we stop doing, what do we continue doing, how can we leverage. We did get a budget this year. It's not that we got nothing this year. We did get a budget, but we're going to work with the police commission and the community, and we're going to see what are the priorities of the community. So we plan on doing some survey work here in January, February, March, find out what the community wants their police service to do, what they see as priorities, and what they see as potentially dropping off, that they're okay to say, okay, the police can't be all things to all people all the time. Right. And so a lot of community involvement, a lot of sharing information and understanding what the priorities have to be for everybody.
Great. And so kind of moving into carding, and I'm sure you've heard about the kind of Ontario Police Commission, and how they've been trying to put a stop to the carding this year. So you said your job is to make the police service the best in Canada. So in the spirit of giving this holiday, are you guys going to ask your officers to keep record of who is stopped and questioned, so Edmontonians know there's no racial profiling going on? And are you guys going to kind of implement a similar process to Toronto? So
we don't really, we do it a little bit different than
right.
other jurisdictions.
Okay.
So we don't really do carding as such. What we do is we will do street checks. Now, obviously, we have to have reasonable grounds to stop somebody. We don't just arbitrarily stop somebody in the street and say, give us your information, because the law doesn't allow us to do that, quite
right.
frankly. So what we'll do is, if we have reasonable and probable grounds to stop somebody, and that will be because somebody is believed to be involved in a crime, the law allows us to do that. Another approach is reasonable suspicion. So somebody's we have, for example, a place is broken into and you see somebody running away. You'll stop that person, identify them. You may not necessarily arrest them. And then the other aspect of it is just being good community police officers, and that's being out there and knowing your community. So you see an individual on the street corner, and you may not even interact with him personally, but you know who he is from a previous interaction. You may say, Joe was on the street corner at 3 a.m.
Mhm.
The next day, let's say there's a break-in at a residence or a car or whatever else, you might go back to Joe and say, gee, you were there at 3 a.m. Did you see anybody go by? Did you? And so interacting, knowing your community, working with your community, knowing who's out there, it can be a very positive thing. It's good for the community, it's good for the police, it's easier to solve crime, those sorts of things. So, you know, we don't advocate for or do just arbitrary detention or arbitrary engagement with an individual. I mean, we want our police officers to get out of their cars, we want them to get out on the street, we want them to interact with business owners, we want them to interact with communities, we want that dialogue going all the time. We want to be a fixture in the community, not just somebody that shows up only when there's a crime or only when something bad happens.
Mm-hmm.
If we have that interaction with the community and we're working with the community, it's just, we're just there. And
Mm-hmm.
people are telling us stuff, hey, this
Mm-hmm.
happened last night, or they'll tell us before a crime even happens.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the carding issue is, I understand it's an issue in some jurisdictions. I don't think it's a big issue here in Edmonton.
Right.
We haven't gotten complaints. We don't
Okay.
have people saying, well, the police are arbitrarily stopping us. We just haven't had that situation here because the approach here is to be a community police service.
Okay.
And the only time we'll stop somebody and say, you know, what's your name, is A, when we have to arrest somebody because we believe they've committed a criminal offense, or when we believe they are a witness or can contribute in helping solve a crime.
So it's great that I think that you guys are out in the community and you're encouraging the officers to kind of have that dialogue and go back and forth. So when they are in the community and kind of, you know, having that dialogue and interacting with people, and they kind of are kind of, you know, just keeping a general kind of mental note of who was where during what time, is there any kind of system to just track who is being stopped and, you know, just have that kind of system there just so you know, okay, so-and-so has been, you know, in this area this many times, he's been stopped this many times, something to that effect, so people know there's a system kind of in place for that.
So sometimes a police officer will only make a notation in their notebook. They'll say,
Okay.
oh, I recognize that guy, or I'm talking to you and say,
Yeah.
do you mind, can I get your name and phone number?
Right.
Because, you know, we might want to come back, we might want to contact you. So
Mhm.
they'll write down a name or phone number, and that may just stay in that police officer's notebook.
Right.
And then there's those occasions where they might enter something into the computer system. So they'll put it in and say, so-and-so was here, or while investigating this, I spoke to this person, and this person. So that gets entered into a database, and that can be retrieved into the future.
Sometimes perception, we have some youth, I heard like in African community who are saying that maybe sometimes they have this profile, thing. So what we wanted just to ask is if we can also prevent that so that we can keep our police is now, so that we don't go to have the issue other country or other province face. How do you think we can keep that? How do you think we can also have this prevention?
So I think it's all about communication, open dialogue, where we're talking all the time. We know your concerns. You know, I would say, and actually I was just at a group here of youth and got a lot of pushback, you know, because they say, well, you're profiling, or you're discriminating, or you're prejudiced. I mean, that's the belief of, you know, some of the people in the room, and that was clearly their belief. And we definitely would not tolerate that for a second in this police service, that people are profiled or discriminated against. Absolute zero tolerance. So, you know, if those situations come to our attention, if people feel that's happening, we need to know about it. We need to understand that, so we can come out and we can have that interaction. And, you know, if that has occurred, we need people to bring it forward, to complain, so we can properly investigate it and deal with it. And because it's absolutely not tolerated. I mean, and you know, I have not seen it. In fact, I've been the police chief here for 4 years. I'm very pleased with our police service here and the fact that we do interact a lot. And I think that's just all about is getting out in those diverse communities and working together all the time, and not being, you know, sort of the police that sit in the car or back in the station and are never out there. And
Yeah.
because I think historically that's what's happened is we just wait for somebody to call and then we go out and we do something. And you never know the community, you never know the people, you never know the culture.
A lot of the youth had called maybe for more education as far as knowing their rights and kind of knowing even policing in general, which I think goes hand in hand with what you said, going in the community and part of that kind of educational component of it. So I know you had said that you want to spend more time more time listening and less time talking. So
That's
are we
correct.
going to see more information forums and kind of a change in police training in 2016 and more educational kind of components coming in towards the community?
Yeah, I think, we're always looking at our training. What's a better way to train? What's a better way to, so our officers understand what kind of a police service we are. When they come in, when they join the Edmonton Police Service, we're a community-based police service. We listen more than we talk. We want to get involved in the community. We need to understand who our clients are and how we can better serve them. I think historically what we've done in the police is we've come out and told you how we're going to do policing. Well, those days are gone, and that's not going to work. So I think we've learned over time that it's better to listen than to talk. And then we don't have to use handcuffs and guns and tasers and pepper spray and all that other stuff. I mean, we want to get away from using force entirely. I mean, I think that demonstrates the success of a police service when they don't have to use force. It's very minimal. I mean, the nature of the job is, yes, sometimes you have to use force. I think that's part of what we do, and we train up for that. But we also train more in our ability to interact and talk as opposed to do other things, use force or whatever else. So we spend a lot of time, a lot of effort in training doing that, and a lot of engagement in verbal judo as opposed to physical judo. So you talk to people and talk them down as opposed to talk them up.
If you will do this job, just the police will do you directly, or if you will also involve the community organizations or other type of people?
So absolutely. So we have something what we call the Youth Police Academy. So it actually is where you get youth coming in and with police officers, and they understand these are some of the challenges we face, some of the issues we face. These are the laws, and this is how the law works. And specifically to, at that session in November, it was, well, can you just stop me? Can you just stop me on the street? Can you just, do I have to give you my name? Well, no, if you're just walking along, no, you don't have to give the policeman your name. If you've done nothing wrong and he has no right to stop you. So it's helping people understand what their rights are and what they can and can't do, and understand when the police do interject, what they have to, in a democratic society, what they have to do under certain circumstances. And I think if both sides understand each other better, there's none of this. There's more of this. So yes, we'll run youth police academies. We have tremendous success with those. Unfortunately, we can't run enough of them. It would be nice to have one going, every month, but that's somewhat unrealistic just because it's a numbers game and we just don't have the resources to do that all the time. But we have tremendous success with that. Again, training our police officers, keeping the community informed, doing stuff like this. This is a great way to keep the community informed, is engaging the media all the time and utilizing the media to get the message out that we're here to help, we're here to support you. If you have challenges and issues, if you have domestic violence, I mean, oftentimes, the challenge with domestic violence is it happens behind closed doors. But there's always somebody that knows about it. Family members, schools, co-workers, friends. People know about this, and we need them to come forward. And so we, the police, can do our job, and we can stop it from happening or get people to a safer, better place and deal with the offender.
Well, we're talking about what's happened in Paris and Amy.
Yes,
we
sir.
have also, like in the black community, there is some concern with youth boy. So what do you think we can do regarding this topic?
Well, I guess, if we've learned anything in the last while here, we know radicalization can happen anywhere. So it's no longer confined to over there or the big city or, Toronto or whatever else. It's not confined there. It can happen anywhere. I think anywhere you have, one of these things or a computer, people can become self-radicalized. And those messages are out there, and ISIS, ISIL, and others are very effective at getting their message out and connecting, particularly with youth. And you know, I look at myself or my children where they go through a time of uncertainty. Certainly, as young adults, as teenagers, you go through a time of insecurity and self-actualization. You're just learning about life, and you're very impressionable. And that's who's being targeted is the youth. And so, and particularly somebody who's come from another country. So you layer that on top of it. They feel isolated from their community, from their culture, and all of a sudden they're here, and they are susceptible to be radicalized. So, you know, investigating, yes, we investigate, and we're very busy right now, but that's not the best way to beat this. The best way to to counter terrorism is, again, connection with the community, work with the community, get out there, talk about the issues. I mean, if somebody sees somebody that's spending more time on a certain website, a radicalization website, or tends to start talking about it, verbalizing to friends, to schoolmates, to co-workers, to family, starts you know, verbalizing that, gee, they're interested in doing something. And we know that's often the case. They don't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to commit a terrorist act. Most often it's a very long process. And when I say a long process, it can be 18 months, it can be a year, it can be 6 months. But other people are seeing that. And what we need is we need strong community outreach by the police. So we're in the communities, we're out there, we're dialoguing with you, and you're telling us what's happening. So if you trust us and you see something that isn't quite right, that you're willing to call us and say, this just, you know, I talked to somebody, I'm very, very concerned, or I have a son or a daughter that I'm concerned about, and then we can intervene and we can get ahead of it before something bad happens.